31-17, who would have thought the Eagles – it just shows you 14 points seems like a lot. In football, it's not. It's 2 points. It's 2 scores. That's it.
Yeah.
And you get a fluke late and a team's driving, and it was closer than 31-17 because it was 17-all. It was 17-3. Sure. Dolphins tie it up, and the Eagles just kind of overpowered the Dolphins. But it was not an easy win. I understand that in the media we've got to react to what we see, and I hate the whole derisive, it's overreaction Monday, everyone's overreacting. No, we're just reacting, but it seems like an overreaction because it's the most recent thing we're reacting to. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But the idea that the Eagles have reestablished themselves as one of the great teams in football.
They were already there, weren't they?
Well, they were already there, but I still don't think they're going to beat the 49ers with this team.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. But
right.
All they did was check the box on a Dolphins team that's had a pretty easy schedule so far.
That's right.
When it's working, it works really well.
Yeah.
But we saw them step on a rake in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So this really didn't surprise me. I don't think it tells us – one game doesn't speak tremendous truths about any team unless it's single elimination.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now it's just part of the journey.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey. The Eagles keep going. Their schedule gets a lot more difficult than it was. That was a point you've been on since May.
Right.
And the Dolphins keep going.
Yeah.
And their schedule has always been
Yeah.
difficult this year. So, it doesn't tell us a whole lot. It just tells us last night the Eagles won the game. They are 6-1 for the second straight season for the first time since the Jaworski days of 1980 and 1981. And I'd like to sit down with Jeffrey Lurie. He is one of the few owners that I think, even though they all read PFT, he is one of the few that if I actually wanted to get him on the phone, I think I could.
Yeah.
And the oligarch would take his time to come down from the ivory tower and actually tolerate
Now I know
me.
where you got the Kelly Green liquor. You're
like
cozy enough to the owner, your buddy over here.
But the times you can just tell when you click with someone and when you don't.
Sure,
And the times I've seen him and talked to him, unless he's just being really nice and he hates me, which is entirely possible, I think that I could at least get an audience with him for 5 minutes.
Right.
And I would say, Jeff, why don't you wear those all the time? Like, I don't see anyone.
Not even close.
I don't see anyone. It's not even a debate.
Yeah.
It's like the whole, some players prefer turf.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
none of them do.
Yeah.
Like, there's no debate. Don't try to make a debate when there isn't a debate. There's no debate between the current Eagles home uniform and the Kelly Greens. Yeah. Everyone wants the Kelly Greens. And I guess the argument is, well, they want them because they rarely ever see them. No, they look better. They are awesome.
Oh.
And it's not just they're awesome because it's the first time they wore them in 13 years.
Yeah.
They ooze awesome.
They do.
I don't know. It's like,
the
Jeff,
helmet's great.
Jeff,
the silver wing is
Jeff,
unreal.
Call me, Jeff. We can talk this through. I felt like when he bought the team, he needed to put his imprint on it. Because it was around that time that they put the paperwork through and they come out with the midnight green with the rollerball numbers. This is...
I'm with you, man. They should stick with it.
This uniform looks so good, it could get me to ditch the Vikings. That's how good it looks.
Damn, that's a strong statement. I think you already ditched them anyways.
This year, yes. If they would make this their full-time uniform, I would ditch the Vikings and the Steelers for the Eagles.
Hey, I'm there with you. I love those uniforms. I mean, of course, when I was growing up and my dad was playing against, Reggie White and Reggie Brown and
Jerome
Brown, excuse me, Clyde Simmons, right? That whole group, Andre Waters, that's the uniforms they wore. I mean, it literally was one of those where as a young kid, they'd come out of the tunnel and I was like, oh gosh, here come the Eagles. Oh no, I hope my dad makes it through the game today, right?
How did they not win a Super Bowl back with that defense?
Well, they, had some offensive struggles. That was the biggest problem. But I think what changed it too was the fact that they never won anything, right? So that was a little bit like, oh, these are bad luck or whatever. But now they're one of the best franchises in the NFL, really, for the last, really the whole century here. They've been pretty strong throughout. They've been relevant, let's just say that, let alone have 3 Super Bowl appearances we're talking about in this century. So I think they could go back to it. I'd like it. But like you said it right. Like about the game just a little. Like the Dolphins haven't played anybody, right? I mean, I think the Bills, who they lost to, like you said, were the only team with a winning record. Okay,
It was like 5-24 or something like
It's
that.
something
they rattled
like
off
that.
The number. Mike Tirico mentioned the
I'm
numbers
mad
last
at
night, and it was
myself for I picked Miami because the Eagles have been a little inconsistent. I guess I kind of wanted to see it to believe it a little bit that way, but you said on it, wore them down, pounded on them. The Eagles' size beats speed more times than not in the NFL. And the Eagles are the ultimate size team, let alone they got a splash of speed at the right positions that make them feel fast on the football field. And that's where it felt like they had the advantage all night. And so, like you said, are the Eagles the best team in football? I don't know, but they're right there at the top with anybody. There's no team that can mismatch them in any category or area on the football team. I think their coaching's coming together, and they stuck it to the Dolphins, at least their offense. Like, it was never easy for the Dolphins offense all night. I think that was the biggest thing, and maybe the biggest surprise of the football game for me was just how much work it was for the Dolphins to drive the field.
And one of the basic realities for the Eagles, now, they've been playing professional football for over 100 years now,
Yeah.
and it's always been 4 downs to make 10 yards. For the Eagles, it's 3 downs to make 7 or 8 yards because they're going to make the final 2 or 3 yards on 4th down.
Pretty much.
So the sticks are shorter for the Eagles than they are for everybody else.
Yeah, I hear that.
This push play, they've perfected it. It's unstoppable. The only thing that you could possibly do, and this is something that Dallas Goedert said after they beat the Vikings, you need a Troy Polamalu moment where the guy jumps over the top and times it just right. But even then, if you jump over, he's gone. Jalen Hurts is gone by the time you jump over. Like, it's all so packed together.
It's going to take a special group.
You're not going to intercept the quarterback and prevent him from moving forward.
Right.
They're all like squeezed in to a subway car or a phone booth. Remember that was a thing like back in the 50s? First of all, kids, there used to be a thing called a phone booth. You never see a phone booth now.
No.
And they used to do this thing where they would see how many people they could get into a phone booth. That's what this is. There's nothing you can do. And they just torpedo through whatever is in front of them. It is an unstoppable force. So, if you've taken the 10 yards and you've moved it to 8 yards,
definitely, yeah,
that is a huge advantage.
Yeah, it is.
Because hey, all we got to do is get close.
Yeah,
and that was it. It began to feel inevitable last night. Like, DeAndre Swift gets tackled 1 yard short.
Yeah,
well, it's first down. Here it comes.
Right,
first down. 4 for 4 last night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been asked this. I feel like it's gone to another level here in the last 2 weeks about the Eagles. First off, it's going to take a special defense, and when I just think off the top of my head, there's only 2 defenses that I feel like have the size and the physicality to maybe match and stop it. One, the 49ers, like you said, right? They can put Javon Hargrave, Armstead, one of their other big D tackles in there, with Bosa, and have a Dre Greenlaw and a Fred Warner who can jump the pile. The Baltimore Ravens would be the other team I look at. They're going to be able to maybe stop it, maybe have the potential, right? Again, 2 good linebackers, and they got a ton of 320-plus defensive tackles to where they can make it interesting. The other aspect of this and what it's so effective, and the Eagles are big. We know that. You've heard me wax poetically about their O-line. It's one of the best we've seen here in recent history. But then the added icing on the cake is their 3 interior offensive linemen are actually centers. They're ex-centers. So you got Kelsey, you got Cam Jurgens, who's going to take over for Kelsey, playing 1 guard. Landon Dickerson's the other guard, who played center at Alabama. And the reason I say that to where that's important, the center's usually the quickest, twitchiest guy on the offensive line, the guy that's the most explosive in a short area, can snap the ball, block somebody, and do all that, right? And they got 3 guys there of that caliber to where when they fire off the ball, they beat people to the punch. And then, of course, a strong quarterback and the rest of everything, how the pushing in the back, all of it, they perfected it. And it's really amazing because, as we've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks where teams have tried to adopt it, no, not everybody can do it. It's truly the Eagles are the team that are unstoppable. Everybody else is kind of like 50-50, 60-40.
That's right. It's not that everybody else fails, but there's no team that does it the way they do it where it's inevitable.
Yes, right.
And you have taken the sticks and shortened them by 1 or 2 yards.
Right.
In comparison to everybody else. Here's Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Eagles, after last night's win, talking about the quarterback push play.
Jason Kelce starts it off. Jalen Hurts, is right there. Haven't been able to drive because you've seen it, right? You've seen it across the league that people can't do it like we can do it. They can't do it like we can do it, and so I'm making my plug right there. Like, don't ban this play. Like, if everyone could do it, everybody would. Where's the camera? If everybody could do it, everybody would do it.
I'd be careful being that brash about it because you're inviting owners to vote against it.
Yeah, sure.
And I was surprised last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this. Jerry Jones came out and said he's in favor of it.
No.
Even though they failed on Monday night to do it, he likes the rugby scrum aspect of it. And he said scrum in his Texas twang, even though it's a mall.
Yeah.
But he likes it. So you got Jeffrey Lurie, you got Jerry Jones, and you're going to have 24 total owners who vote against it to get rid of it. But I'd be careful about being a little too in your face about it because you're inviting someone to do something because they'll do it under the guise of health and safety. And Jason Kelce's health and safety is the one that's most at risk. He told Devin McCourty that the worst part about that play is I'm at the bottom of this pile, and they got to peel all these guys off me. If you've ever been at the bottom of a pile of bodies, I remember being on the playground when I was a kid, and they pile up. If you're on the bottom, you feel like you're going to die.
It's never fun.
You feel like your rib cage is going to be crushed under the weight of all these bodies. And imagine, it's Mike Tirico said it last night. It's 3,000 pounds on top of Jason Kelce.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It really is. It's a cool thing. The player safety thing's the only thing I do worry about, right? But if they deem it, that okay, it's not many players are getting hurt, which I don't know if I do feel like I see that a whole lot. I think I'm probably in favor of keeping it too. I don't know. There's a part of me that just doesn't want to take it away from the best team in the football when they have this advantage, and I want to just go. I want to see the natural bylaws of the NFL and a team stop it, and then maybe we could talk about taking it away. But I don't know if that's the best approach. But either way, it talks about again the reason they win 31-17, the reason they're 6-1, the reason they're one of the highest Super Bowl candidates is they got bigger people and they're a big physical old school NFC East type of football team, and those elements outside fall night and a team from Miami comes up, the advantage is to a team like the Eagles.
And the sticks are shorter for them than they are for everybody else, and that's a hell of an advantage. And I've warmed up to it because to me it's almost like, and kids, this is back in the day when we actually had, TVs that we watched at the same time and you couldn't put on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But when you would watch a TV show and there was a character that had a catchphrase, whether it was Arnold on Different Strokes, what you talking about, Willis?
Yeah.
Like every show had a catchphrase. This is like the NFL catchphrase. When you're watching the Eagles, this is the catchphrase. You're waiting for the moment that Fonzie comes in and goes, hey, there's just something that's become familiar and likable. And here it is.
Yes.
And can anyone stop it?
Right.
And now you've got guys blatantly lining up offside, and they don't care. And you've got officials who don't realize that the other hand that's next to the football is actually Jason Kelce's hand and not the guard. Like, there's all these wrinkles and layers to it, which just make it a moment unlike anything else. And it was like when in '85 when they started bringing William the Refrigerator Perry in. Like, you start looking forward to it.
Yeah, right.
It's like this is something neat and something different, and you just know it's not going to last forever.
Yep.
It may only last as long as those three guys, those three centers are playing for the Eagles.
Right.
And so we just accept it and enjoy it, and it's just become part of the fabric of the game.
Yeah, it has.
And I hated it at first.
Yeah, I hear you too. I did too, kind of a little bit. I felt like it was like kind of cheating. But then once, I think the fact that I saw everybody else kind of try to copy it and adopt it and realize, well, wait, it's these other teams can't do it. I think it made me think differently to go, no, this is special to the Eagles, right? And I think added on top of what we talked about, that we haven't seen injuries, too consistently there or anything that's endangering to the NFL and the players that way. That's where I think I can get behind it. But man, that's Eagle football right now, and I do kind of love it. I do. The Eagles are tough. They want to beat you up physically. I don't know. I got the sense of that game, even though it was like, I know it was close and it was 17-7. It just, or 17-all there in the third quarter. It still felt like the Eagles could kind of methodically drive down the field on the Dolphins every drive, really, right? I always felt like they could run for 5. He'd throw a slant to A.J. Brown for 6, another under route to A.J. Brown for another 5, run for 6, Oh, here goes Dallas Goedert, caught a ball. Where it felt like they could kind of do that all night. They put the Dolphins in positions where they had to bend or change things because they had to worry about being out-physicaled or outsized by the Philadelphia Eagles. And on the other side of the ball, it just felt like, I don't know, can the Dolphins and Tua consistently drive the ball on this football team? Because you got a pretty good gist early on. You're going, wow, the big people on Philadelphia, the Dolphins aren't running tonight. That's not going to happen. We're not going to see Raheem Mostert running up and down the football field. And you got a good feel, too, I think, after about the first quarter that, hey, Tyreek Hill's fast and he might make a few plays tonight, but he ain't going to be like, this ain't going to be 215, 220 yards. It just seemed more work for the Dolphins, that they had to hit a big play or something like that was going to have to happen, and I never felt like they could consistently, methodically drive the ball up and down the field on that Eagles defense.
Well, and that's what they were going to need to do to
know.
match the scoring and that inevitability of the Eagles when they need it. Like, they can just slip into this mode.
That's right.
Where it's not greatest show on turf.
No.
It's not fast break.
No.
It's just, we're going to get a first down.
Here we come. We're going to run up the middle.
We've got 8 yards to go.
Right.
8 or 9 yards to go.
Yeah.
You know that. We know that. We're just going to work it. We're going to
Run
work
up the
it.
middle.
We're going to work
Here's
it.
a screen. Jalen makes a scramble. Oh, now it's, another throw. It's another run up the middle. You're right. And they can just kind of wear you down that way.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.